Hello, everyone. So I'm co-presenting today with Nayla Glaise, that is the president of EuroCadres, that is also a partner in EQUITAS. I'm Roberta Calegari, the coordinator of EQUITAS, University of Bologna. I'm a professor at the Computer Engineering Department, and I'm a professor of AI ethics. So I will try to be very short, because I know that I'm the obstacle between you and the lunch. And so we don't need to talk about the context, because it is exactly what we made all the morning, but this is the context where EQUITAS was born many years ago, because EQUITAS started in 2020 actually, and was written in 2019, okay? And so that was exactly the context, and we started identifying three main challenges that are the challenge that EQUITAS would like to answer somehow. So we saw the first challenge mentioned in many other talks here in these 2 days. Fairness actually has no uniform definition from the legal perspective, but also from the social perspective, because values are completely different, and the stakeholders involved in the process can have completely different idea of what is fair in a particular scenario. The second challenge is also related to the technical perspective, because we saw, and also at the time, if we had to take a look at the technical state of the art of AI fairness, we can see that many techniques have been developed, are there, many quantitative way of measuring fairness are there, but the landscape is fragmented. So if I'm a new company that wants to develop a new AI system in some domain, and I would like to develop something that is fair, maybe I'm kind of disoriented within the landscape. And also the last challenge is related to the gap between these two different perspectives. On one side, I would call the social legal perspective, and on the other side, the technical one. Usually there is a gap. So as Roger mentioned before, usually computer engineers are simple in the way that they want to measure something, they want to measure fairness, but this is something that is not that easy to be measured from a social and a legal perspective. So here we have a gap, and actually many of the metrics that we usually use for measuring fairness are not legally sound. So this is something that we should take into account. That said, what is the core idea of EQUITAS when we build this project and this idea? The idea is to tackle AI and fairness, providing, first of all, an holistic methodology that put together all the three different perspectives that needs to come into play when we talk about AI fairness: social, legal, and technical. So we start with the methodology, but a methodology that is linked to an experimentation environment, because at the end of the day, we are also computer engineer and computer scientists, so we really want to create tools that are capable of helping us in building better AI system. So the idea here is to create an experimentation environment. Why? Because we would like to create, let me say, a sort of a light sandbox when I can understand what will be the impact of a specific technical choice. So what if I choose this model? What if I choose these metrics? What is happening? What is underpinning the system that I'm creating? So the tool, so the methodology is linked within this tool, and the tool has two main flows. The first one is a flow where you don't have anything and you want to design your AI system from scratch, while the second one is the flow where you have maybe the data or already an algorithm and you want to test compliance in terms of AI fairness of your system. So how we are going to make it happen? This is, I think, one of the key ingredients of EQUITAS. We start with different real use cases. So we have different use cases in the healthcare domain, in the human resources domain, as we saw that we share with other sister projects, and also in the social disadvantage group domain, where we talk about child abuse and neglect and education. So the key aspect is that in this consortium, that is a very wide consortium, we are 16 partners. We are not only researchers, technicians, social scientists, computer scientists, lawyers, but we have data providers. So we have company that really wants to apply AI in their scenario. And the key contribution also of today, and Nayla will be better explained than me, we have association that works for the rights of the people that will be affected by the decision of this AI system. So Nayla will delve a little bit in this detail, and this afternoon you will have another association that will be in the panel that is Period Think Tank, and Julia is also here in the audience, and you can interact also with her later during the lunch. Okay, so we said that we want to produce this holistic methodology linked to an experimentation environment. So these are the main outcome of the project. We already have developed the methodology. You can find it on our website, okay? And you will see that this is really, as I said you before, is a methodology that put together all the different perspectives. We apply in this methodology. You are encouraged to apply participatory design. That is something that we talked also about this morning. So you will see that each requirement for having compliance in terms of fairness will be translated in concrete action, and for each concrete action, we will specify who should sit around the table for taking the right decision in that moment. And it is not only computer scientists. Then we have a component that allows you to have a contextualized assessment of fairness. That means that we are going through the fact that fairness is not something that is well defined. It is context dependent. It is related to the policy that we want to inject in our AI system, and so need to be contextualized. And finally, we have the experimentation environment. I want also to stress the point here that we think that an experimentation environment is really needed because an algorithm is not fair whenever you put and you use it. It is fair inside some boundaries, okay? So if you go out, if I take a system that has been trained for a purpose and I use the system for a completely different purpose, that is actually what we usually do with some language model, the behavior is not guaranteed at all. So we need to experiment different scenario, different polarization of the data to understand the boundaries of my system and to understand that if I want to have a fair behavior, I need to stay inside the boundaries that are described as the outcome of the experimentation. So these are the main components. We start with the methodology, then with the methodology we grab a lot of data, metadata related to the context that will help the socio-technical component to make an assessment in the experimenter that is contextualized. And then we have the other component that is related to synthetic data generator, for the purpose that I said before, because I don't want to rely only on the real data, maybe also mitigated, whatever, but I want to stress test my application. So I want to be able to polarize in different way my data. So we are answering to the first challenge that we saw before, how providing, contextualizing the assessment of fairness via the methodology that will provide the metadata for the context, via the socio-technical component, and via the synthesizer. Also, we are giving a sort of an answer to the fragmented technical panorama. Why? Because we are enabling a comparison with all the different metrics that exist. Also, after grabbing the notion related to the context, our application is capable of suggesting the metrics that you should use in this context, what are the limitations, and so on. Finally, we are answering to bridging the gap in a way between the social legal perspective and the technical one. Why? Because we are linking the action that you will find in the methodology with the concrete experiment in the platform. So you will have a screen in the text experimentation environment that will reify the compliance that you find in the methodology. Okay, so for instance, you have to check for this distribution of the data and so on. This is just a quick focus in the methodology, but the point that I wanted to make is exactly the fact that you see we have an holistic methodology that covers all the AI pipeline. We have a co-creation and co-design methodology that we put in place, and we have different stakeholders that we identified for each action, and for each phase you will know who should be around the table. And the other point that I would like to make here is that our methodology starts with the question zero. So it can be actually that in some cases you shouldn't use AI at all. So AI is not the answer to all our problems. And this is something that you have to discuss in the preliminary phase when you really want to approach to this kind of system. Here we just put an example to show you how the methodology discuss the compliance with the article in the Act, for instance, and the test that will ensure the compliance with the specific article in the Act is reified then in the experimentation environment via a test that you can perform on your data. That said, here just some screen of the experimenter that you saw also yesterday. Joseph demonstrated, but you can engage with him later. So you will see that in the experimenter you are you can go through the process of detecting unfairness according to some metrics and so on, and mitigate unfair behavior that you don't want. You can mitigate in three specific ways: data mitigation, model mitigation, interpretation of result mitigation. That are the three main points where unfairness can happen. Okay. That said, I will quickly move to some use cases. So use cases are on one side in EQUITAS the foundations, because we built this experimentation environment and the methodology starting from the analysis of the real use cases. But they will also be the end of the story of EQUITAS, because in this last year we will take all the use cases and we will validate them inside the framework that we built. So some preliminary result is related to this case in the healthcare domain, when we want to develop a tool for helping doctors in diagnosis, dermatology diagnosis of skin disease, also rare skin disease, and taking a look at the first experiment that we made through the experimenter, we can see that, for instance, the accuracy is completely different depending on the skin tone. Why? Because we are working with an hospital that is placed in Bologna, so the majority of the cases are Caucasian skin kids. Okay, so what is happening here? It is happening that when it comes to a darker skin tone, the accuracy drops down in a very bad way. You can see that from 90 we go down to 20, and this is really bad. Why? Because the AI system is answering. Okay, the AI system is not saying, okay, I cannot answer because I don't know. It is giving an answer, and this is really bad. So how we dealt with this? We approached here with a data mitigation approach, and in particular we generated images with darker skin tones. So we worked on the generation together with the doctors in order to be able to balance our data set. And at the end of the day, we were kind of happy with the result. I mean that this is the accuracy after augmenting the data set, 90 and 84. Okay, so stuff are getting better. Of course, you can also measure inside the environment all the metrics related to fairness and unfairness. 2 words about the job matchmaking use case, that is a recruitment use case. Here we have 2 applications. The first one is to find the best 10 candidates out of a job position, and the reverse algorithm is the other way around. We started with data of companies that we have in our consortium, Accodis and Adecco in particular. And we started experimenting with the data inside our experimenter. So the first issue that we have with this data is that we have a lot of missing value, and this is an issue when it comes to train an AI algorithm, because in a way you have to complete the missing value, and you will apply some sort of technique for filling in this missing value, and usually you put bias into the data when you do this kind of operation. So let's take a look at the data. As Lynette well mentioned this morning, data is never neutral, and indeed we can see that here some stereotypes are inside the data. Why? Because, for instance, some works are tagged as female works, other as male works. Okay, so stereotypes are there. And we need to be able at least to be aware of this, that we are training a system out of this data. So these are some screens just to show you that inside the experimenter you can see the correlation, you can measure fairness and unfairness, and you can mitigate some inequalities that you can find in the data. I will leave here the floor to Nayla, so please, to better highlight the part of the association.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Roberta, and apparently it's me between you and lunch, so I'll be very, very quick. My name is Nayla Glaise, and I represent Eurocad. We are three here from the office of Brussels. So we are a European social partner, so which means that we participate in the European social dialogue, and we are consulted by the European Commission when there's a legislation that concerns work and workers. So we have been consulted on the AI Act, for instance, but also on the many other legislations concerning AI. Susan talked about the DSA this morning, on the Digital Service Act, but there have been the Digital Market Act, and also unfortunately a text that was dropped recently, which is the AI Liability Act. But mainly what I wanted to say is that our work in Brussels is not only to lobby for a good legislation that protects workers against any risk, but it's also our members are trade unions in different EU countries. So we represent 6 million of white-collar workers, so it's only a category of workers. So in these 6 million, we have also developers, data scientists, and other workers. And what we try is to make the EU legislation very accessible to them, and that they can understand how does this impact their daily lives at work. So one of the things that we have developed is a checklist. It dates from 2022 because the AI Act discussion started from April 2021, even before ChatGPT. And then the text was changed many, many times. So we tried to develop kind of checklists with the 7 key requirements for a trustworthy AI system. We have seen these 7 requirements yesterday in one of the presentations. And we tried to make a checklist with what does that mean concretely in the workplace? What does that mean for a worker? What does that mean for a worker representative also that sometimes is consulted when an AI system is put in place at the workplace? But now what we would like to do also is to develop more and more these materials that should be accessible to the workers and add the tools that have been presented, the excellent tools actually, that have been presented yesterday and today. Okay, I know there's a panel debate after this on the AI Act, but one thing that is important also, and this is, I think, not it's a good way to start a legislation based on a risk approach. And in the EU, it is, Susan talked about the fundamental rights. It is a principle. The do no harm principle is a EU principle that dates from ages now. And the AI Act is based on a risk approach. So you have 4 categories of risks, and then depending on the risks, you have some requirements or not, or there's some complete ban of some AI applications. But where we are not happy as a trade union, because trade unions are never happy anyway, is that this is a product-based legislation. So when AI systems are used in the workplace, then there is no real protection for the workers on the impact of this on health and safety, on the work organization, and other things. In the AI Act, there two situations where the workers are impacted. It is when AI systems are used for recruitment, for selection of natural person, but also for promotion, and when you want to fire people, for task allocation, evaluation of performance, and this is considered as a high risk. But what does that mean? It means that there's some risk assessment that should be done according to the slide before. So high risk, you have risk assessment, accuracy of data, safety and health. But this, I think, will be discussed this afternoon. Another European text that is really important, it is the Platform Work Directive. And it is a directive that concerns only platform workers. So, you know, the workers that work like, you know, Uber and others, but it's not only Uber and others, because we have so many developers as well that are platform workers and not employed by big companies. And what is important in this Platform Work Directive, we have worked a lot on this during the last mandate of the Commission, is that there's a big chapter on algorithmic management and its impact on work. I would say there's three important things in this directive. The first one is that it obliges the platform to have some transparency and explainability to the platform worker on how the data is used and what the algorithm do. A second thing that is important, that it also obliges the platform to have some human intervention when it comes on decision that concerns the contractual relation between the worker and the platform. And the third one, I would say, that is to have some specific rights on health and safety. And I think this is the first time in an EU text that we could see the word psychosocial risks, because we know that this has a big impact on mental health of workers. You know, when you are banned by an algorithm because you were not well ranked by a client or something, which means a lot of anxiety on the workers itself, because they don't know if tomorrow they have a job, if tomorrow they can pay their bills. And this is why it is important also that this is regulated for us. So what we're calling now, what's next now? So at the European level, okay, we have now a new commission since last June. We have a new parliament. And I would say that, I mean, I'm not very optimistic with this new mandate, because we're trying to follow a little bit the deregulation Trump's flag now, but we're still calling for a directive on algorithmic to address algorithmic management, because the Platform Work Directive and its chapter on algorithmic management concerns only the platform workers, not the employed workers in like all the companies that we know. So we would like to have a directive on algorithmic management that address these risks, makes a risk evaluation, but on the workplace, not only from the deployer point of view, but from the user point of view, like our members that are impacted by the use of algorithm on surveillance and other. How do we do these risk assessments and how to prevent them? There are some moderators, and this morning I have heard it many times, transparency is very important, because people would feel very confident if algorithms are more transparent for them. We need also more rights for trade union representatives that are consulted, but in the same time, they don't know what to check, how to do with this. So we need to have the right to expertise. So this is why we're calling for a new legislation on this, but I'm very confident that the tools that you have been developing are also very useful for us. Thank you.
Questions? I don't. Do you have any questions? Oh, yes, one. Okay, they will give you, because they want to have lunch. But okay.
I have a question to you, Roberta. Yes. First of all, like, you have a very cool name, right? Like, you work in like AI and you have named after a language model. So yes. Anyways, so yes, like what I wanted to ask is that like you showed in one of the slides that like you have biases with respect to like different like job applications. Like so different fields, for example, say have different kinds of biases. Somewhere like women are more, let's say, predominant, where some like it's mainly dominated by males. So what exactly do you do to mitigate that?
Actually, we can do different stuff.
Hmm.
But in the experiment that I showed there, we have for instance, synthetic data that represent for that job a male population and not only female, you know. So having a balanced distribution and making it happen that the algorithm can learn that not only female can do that kind of job, but also male. But you can apply other techniques.
No, I was wondering because I like this topic, specifically this topic. I think like Professor Toon-Cadler like discusses a lot about this, and like in the book of the AI fair, like AI/ML fairness, like yeah, like they have discussed this in a like broad length, right? Like what's the problem there, and the fair learn algorithm, like or the library, basically like over there, like if you want to optimize your model with respect to conditioned on certain attribute where you want to actually make the balance or equity, let's say, you can actually do that with the library itself by just like conditioning on this extra attribute, non-protected attribute, let's say, like where you want to have the more balance across.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for this suggestion. I think that we also take a look to the fair library, so
Mhm.
we can redirect. But I think that we also bracketed in a way existing techniques, so you can also apply the technique that you are talking about in the experiment.
Mm.
Or at least you will be able to make it in the future, not right now, probably, but at the end of the project, let's say. So thank you so much. Picture moment, correct?
Yes, so if you don't mind, the original plan was to take it outside, but it's too cold for us. If you don't mind and if you want to participate, can you come to the front and we take a photo of everybody, attendees, speakers, everyone? Like, if you want, it's completely optional, please. No, 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 I will put the, yeah. Photo. Please don't. If you're gonna come, just come. Otherwise, you can also start. Lunch is starting outside, so feel free. Both are okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Who can? All right. Pregúntale hasta dónde puede sacar la foto. All right. Everybody ready? Okay. No pressure. Do you need us? Just a moment. Yes, please, can you squeeze a little bit? Like especially the ones in the border. If you're tall, you can come behind also. I'm trying. I'm standing. Huh? No, no, no. I'm fine. Like I think. Ready? Okay, thank you. Thank you.